So please, everyone, give a warm welcome and round of applause, even if you're behind the camera with your camera off, to Anthony Alexander, District Director with If Better is Possible, Good is Not Enough.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone to tonight's TLI. I am so glad that each and every one of you was able to join us tonight. And for those of you that I haven't had a chance to speak to in the new year, Happy New Year. 2020 was a rough one. We're so glad to be in a brand new year with brand new goals and brand new initiatives. And I think that's a very important point about evaluations, because a lot of people at this time of the year, whether it was the end of December, beginning of January, or the middle of January, everyone's thinking of one thing. Either it's an evaluation that they received at work, or they have their own self-evaluation by way of a New Year's resolution. And they're thinking about, what are the things that I'm going to do in the new year to make myself better? But more importantly, what are the things that I didn't accomplish in the prior year that is going to make me a better person? And I know most of you that are in their careers, in the middle of their careers, and they get evaluations that kind of sound like this. You did a great job. You've done awesome this year. Keep up the great work. And if you hear the word great one more time in that conversation, you're probably going to tear your hair out, just like me. But that's the main problem with evaluations. And that's one of the reasons why this is one of our core topics for this round of TLIs, is the art of a good and effective evaluation. And the key and the heart of that is this kind of sentiment of, if better is possible, good is not enough. Not necessarily striving for perfection or anything like that, but more so of trying to identify what are the gaps, what are the things that I'm trying to work on, and how is that going to make me more effective, whether it's being a leader, where it's going to be an individual contributor, anything that you're trying to strive for. How do I become better? And I'm going to tell you about two different scenarios of two different stories where this mindset of, if better is possible, good is not enough, is critical to developing people, and why it's so important for us as Toastmasters and club leaders to make sure that our evaluations are just as good as the speeches that come into our club. The first story that I'm going to share is about a direct report that I had when I was generating a new team about 4 or 5 years ago. And this team was basically built out of a necessity for a business need that we had within our group. And one of the things that was most important for me is not only having individuals that help assist me in the gaps that I had within my professional game, but also finding people with a fresh perspective. And that came way out of my entry-level employees. I actually did something that was unconventional. I didn't look for finance or accounting background students. I looked for individuals that had transferable skills and a unique mindset to look at a process, look at something that was unconventional, and to make convention out of it. And one of the first direct reports I picked out of that fit that to a T. He was a good compliment to my personality. He was a great compliment to my accounting background. And he was one of those individuals where, even though I had all the technical prowess, if I can explain something well enough to him, it was straight up with me right out the gate. And that's exactly what I needed out of this team. I fostered this individual every single year, and every single one of our evaluations, not only for me as a leader, but him during his annual evaluations, where these are the components that you are doing great at, and that is awesome. But here are 2 to 3 things that you could be doing better to help round out your skill set. We went through that model for 2 to 3 years up until I left the team for another promotion opportunity. But he kept that mindset and that structure of always looking for that individual gap within his game to help improve himself as an employee. And one of my proudest moments of him as an employee at my firm was just last year, when he was just promoted to the exact same role that I was like 5 years ago. One of my favorite things of being a manager is seeing someone develop and catch up to a position that I previously held. And that was spectacular. But it was because of the fact that we had honest feedback with one another. We challenged each other. And there was never an evaluation, whether it was to me as a manager or to him as a direct report, where it's like, you've done a great job. Just keep doing that and you'll be awesome. There was always constructive criticism behind it. Now, the second story has to do with another direct report when I joined another team, and he was actually a very tenured employee that always received the generic evaluation year after year. Now, when I joined this new team, I came into it as not the non-subject matter expert. I was drawn into this team because of the fact that I had a fresh perspective. I worked on systems before, and I could actually build a process together. And every single one of my direct reports had an average of 5 to 10 years of industry experience more than I did. The issue with the team, though, was all of their evaluations, and in particular for this one direct report, for 7 years in a row, he was meets expectations across the board. In every single one of those evaluations where you did this well, and this well, just keep up the great work. And when I had my first year in evaluation with him, I did something also non-conventional. There was one core competency out of all of them that I hit meets expectations, where I put needs improvement on. And you would think that if you put a needs improvement for somebody, they would be distraught, upset, and you'd think you would be going into a contentious year-end evaluation. But he actually went into that evaluation smiling back at me, and it's like, awesome, now I'm actually going to get something out of this. We had an honest conversation about how he could frame his messaging better, how he could sell the product better, and different aspects of how he could manage the team better based off of how he could track the mechanisms and use KPI reporting to figure out if there were certain individuals on his team that were doing too much work and could be rebalanced and delegated, and individuals on his team that could actually be brought to the next level. The core lesson from him is this year, he actually was gone for 3 months due to a surgery that he actually needed on both of his hands for this year. So going into COVID-19, not only did we have to go into BCP mode and work from home and get used to all of that, he had to have surgery on both of his hands and actually leave his team behind for 3 months while he actually took care of himself. But what was spectacular about that is after that first evaluation we had a year and a half ago, his team not only succeeded in meeting all expectations, they actually thrived more than any other year that they've ever had before. So much to the fact that my senior executives commended him on the way back in because they were so well prepared, well versed, and able to tackle any challenge behind them. And actually displayed him as a better manager of being gone than what he was the years prior being present. And that was because of the fact that for once, we had a plan of how to improve himself and the team to position them better. And that's the power of an effective evaluation. That is the power of if better is possible, good is never enough, because you never want to be stuck in a rut. You never want to be stagnated in your current processes. If I ever hear the phrase that this is the way that we've always done it, I throw that out the window and try to find something new. And I hope out of these two stories, it helps inspire you to kind of fact share and fact find in your breakout sessions tonight. You take the lessons learned from Cindy, Audrey, and Trevor to heart. And we go into a dialogue in our breakout sessions that are very constructive, and you can take back to your clubs to make this emboldened passion for evaluations. Because people come into Toastmasters not just so they can become better public speakers, but so they can improve themselves far beyond what they could have actually done by their own devices. And every single club officer that's looking back at me and maybe hiding behind their screens in front of me, that we can take this back to our clubs and make sure that we're making each other stronger by a result.